if we wait for the regulator to deploy Gen AI, then we're going to have, I think, a bit of a problem. That is traditionally the case. The private sector needs to lead. I think it's also fair, though, to recognize that some of the risks with emerging technologies are not new. So the risks associated with AI are not terribly new. So some of the existing regulations, I think, can be adopted and should be adopted. We just talked about data privacy in the context of India. That thinking that Chandra just talked us through will apply in the context of AI just as much. But then there will be areas where there are clear gaps. So how do we find a path that we can continue to innovate and do this in a responsible way? Because only responsible AI is the AI that we should use. So, what we advocate for is you go in a principled way. This is how data privacy found its way to regulation. A number of companies around the world said, why don't we just put out very simple principles on what we're going to do? So Mastercard was one of them. We very simply said, if you're the consumer, you own your data, you control your data, you benefit from your data, and it's the industry's job to keep it safe. Can we do the same thing with AI as an industry? Kind of self-regulation, and then with that lead into regulatory frameworks? Absolutely we can. And I think some of the principles that I think we should be looking for, if you think about the risks associated with AI, people don't know in certain instances if AI will be used. Is what you're looking at AI-generated content, yes or no? So transparency would be a very good principle in the context of AI. What are other good principles? Privacy and security, obviously. How about accountability? The accountability that every company that uses this would say, we are using responsible AI only, so you take accountability for making sure that happens. I think that's also absolutely true. And I think the last thing that is inherent in AI and an important principle is integrity. And here is, in AI, easily you can build in biases, and if biases are there, your outcome is going to be directed in a way that is not helpful for inclusive growth. So integrity of using non-biased AI will be the fourth principle. Accountability, transparency, privacy and security, and accountability. And I think with that very simple approach, that'd be a good guide to regulators around the world.
I think there is a real focus around the world. People want to be confident that this new technology will remain under human control. They've seen too many science fiction movies that have turned out the other way. And as we're creating what feels like part of science fiction, we need both companies and regulators to focus on that. I do think we then need to create a regulatory blueprint as governments and the private sector around the world. I think that means that some of these principles will get applied at, say, the applications layer, some at the model layer, some at the cloud or data center layer. I think that blueprint will then need to be implemented in part by ensuring that those who are using, say, AI in their business, in some cases, need to know who their customers are and how they're using it, just like banks need to know who they're lending money to. It means that there's a real focus on knowing what cloud it's being deployed in, and there's a huge focus on knowing the content that's being created, and especially if it's being created by AI, that people have information about it as well. And then the last point I would say is this regulatory blueprint is going to require action at the private sector level, including to create standards, at the national level, and ultimately at the global level. And we're going to have to figure out how these connect with each other.